Okay, this is Sharon Fibros from Razor Sharp Independent Media, and we're here at the Waitangi Independence Celebration Day. I've got on my extreme left over here Hagrid, and in the middle Bullet and Rock. Wow, guys, this is a very big day. Why is it important to you?
It's important to all Māori people, Waitangi Day. It's a day that Māori had things taken from them. So, yeah, we're just celebrating. I don't know why we celebrate it, but yeah, we just do.
This is Razor Sharp with Sharon Fibros, and we're here at a very important celebration today, and that is the Waitangi Independence Day held in Melbourne at Altona Beach. I've got with me right now Terence Tai, and he's the Indigenous Maori Welfare of All Islanders representative. Welcome on board, Terence.
Thank you very much.
And also too, I've got here Mario Falweza Akarama. And he represents all the Maori people of New Zealand. So it's a very significant day. What's the meaning to today? What's the purpose of it?
Oh, to us Māori people that have got a true deep understanding. First of all, kia ora te whānau, and I'd like to apologise that I can't reo properly, but I've got the wairua, it's inside me. I know the truth, so I'm going to speak it in English.
Okay, and what's the meaning of today, Terence?
Today, the significance of the day in 1840, on the 5th of February, the treaty was signed between the Māori people and the British Crown. And that's what we're doing today, celebrating the signing of that treaty.
Precisely. So this treaty obviously is a treaty that has obviously been in place now for a couple of 100 years. And has it brought benefits to the Maori people, the signing of the Waitangi Treaty?
I don't know if it's brought benefits. What I think is it's, in some way it's oppressed a bit of the Māori. It's, kept us under thumb. We're going right back to, governments passing acts and bills in Parliament, pretty much discriminating Māori, taking away our rights, taking away a lot of our mana. It's just not fair, That's what I think anyway. That's what I believe, and we need to stand up. We need to unite, get together, put all our animosities aside, north, south, east, west. Get back to your history, read your history, know what it's about. It's from this flag that ties us to a constitution. Without a constitution, we don't have our rights. They will take it away from us. They'll go referendum. They'll do a republic, state. They'll use another flag. They'll change everything they can in their power. This TTPA is no good. It's no good. We're losing our land.
And what's of the flag here, Terence, in your hands? What does that mean and signify?
This flag come into being.
Hold it up.
This came into existence after the treaty was signed. Prior to the treaty being signed, this was the flag that was governed the Māori sovereignty in those days. The treaty wasn't called for by the Māori people. It was the British Crown that called for the treaty. I've likened the treaty to a visa. It allowed the white settlers into New Zealand. Days gone by, they used to call to get rid of the treaty. Māoris got educated and said, okay, we'll get rid of the treaty. If you get rid of the treaty, what happens then means your visa's expired, so you get kicked out of the country. So they stopped saying that, get rid of the treaty. They no longer say that. So what happened is the treaty was passed by Parliament as the living document of New Zealand. It was put in place to actually protect our sovereign rights for the Māori people. But somewhere along the line, change of governments, they just undermined it, just kept undermining it. With the TPPA,
Which is the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement.
with that, prior to that, the American government tried to get into New Zealand through the foreshore agreement. Māoris came together and blocked it. To me, the TPPA is another way of just another ploy by the Americans to get into New Zealand, to exploit what we have in New Zealand, which is our natural resources. Once they get in there, that's what the Māori people are frightened of. All their rights are going to be eroded through this TPPA.
Yeah, so the Maori people really are wanting to do away with the TPPA, but it appears as if, and that's the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, which obviously Australia here, this is also the case here where we've had the Trade Minister attempt to bring this about. It's been cloaked with secrecy. Here in Australia, I should assume it's the same in New Zealand, and no discussions really with the public at large. It's all been a lid slapped on the top of it, and that doesn't matter whether it's Mr Abbott in power or Mr Turnbull in power. We've got the Liberal National Conservative Party attempting to push as much these Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, which will therefore hand over, like a treaty, the natural resources and rights to New Zealand, and of course that would be the case here with Australia. So obviously the Maori people are against this. So what's the direction that you're wanting to go? Is it, getting back to you here, Mario, is it that you want to get your protections under the Constitution? What is the direction you want to take?
First of all, we've got to sort out the Constitution. To me, the Constitution's not the Constitution that us Māori should be living under. It's not what we signed up for. It's, to me, personally, false Constitution. And, it was piggybacked from the British colony. And, we didn't sign up for that. We didn't cede our sovereignty for those rights, so... If we are going to have any contact with our whenua, with our land, it's through this flag, 1835, 28th of October. It was signed, okay. It lasted right up until 1840, until February the 6th, 1840, and then pretty much got withdrawn, and up went the Union Jack.
And so you're saying here that this particular flag really is a flag that the Maori people of New Zealand supported?
Well, at the time, Māori people around the northern districts of the North Island, even coming down into the Waikato and going down onto the East Coast area, pretty much right through, pretty much top half, 3/4 of the top half of the North Island would have supported much of this. A lot of Māori didn't. I can understand that. They have their beliefs, they have their rights, but the British colony was set out to do whatever they're going to do anyway. They've done it in the past. They'll keep doing it in the future, as we can see. So this flag was signed on that day, and it was given a 21-gun salute. It was witnessed by French naval ship and also American naval ships out in the bay. It gave us our absolute sovereignty, which was recognised internationally. So internationally, it's recognised under international law, under United Nations law. This is our true flag. There's going to be a lot of discrepancies out there. Māori are going to fight Māori. Māori are going to argue against Māori, but that's not what it's all about. It's about coming together and sorting out. Learn your whakapapa. I have to learn my whakapapa. I've got to go back and learn my language. But at the moment, I'm really been taken by this for the last 6 or 7 years since it's been introduced to me. Wasn't really taught it at school. A lot of Māori weren't taught much at school. If we actually go back and research our past, we'll find out we were very oppressed in a lot of things, going right back to eating our kai, to the way we had to live, to the way we had to talk. So yeah, this is where our Constitution is. This is what gives us a binding to the British monarchy law. We use their own law against it. Okay, we use their law, against them.
Yeah, so I mean, are you saying that that which passed at that time, did it extinguish the sovereignty of the Maori people?
No, it doesn't. I do not believe it does extinguish our sovereignty. Our Maori people at the time would have thought exactly the same.
But how are they interpreting it today? Is government trying to say that it extinguished your sovereignty?
That's what the government's saying.
So
earlier on, the treaty wasn't signed by all the chiefs of New Zealand. It was only signed by a certain number, and they signed on behalf of the other tribes.
So you're saying really that it was probably best, we as Aboriginal people here in Victoria had a very significant week last week, and that was the first time in 20 years that we've had a meeting between the government, that is the state government of Victoria, which is the ALP government, and Natalie Hutchins, and a meeting with her, first time in 20 years. But I mean, obviously we've got the Liberal National Conservative government of the Abbott and now Turnbull government attempting to include Aboriginal people into the Constitution. Now we've got the battle between the inclusion into the Constitution, or do we want to go treaty? So arising out of that meeting, we said, no, we want to go treaty. We want a treaty with the government, and the government has agreed here in the state of Victoria. But as you're saying, when you do treaty, does that extinguish your sovereignty? You're saying that it does not extinguish your sovereignty, and the government is trying to argue that it does extinguish your sovereignty. So what would you recommend and suggest to Aboriginal people, given you've already walked down this path?
I would say walk down the path of the treaty, but if you're going to go down that path, go down together as one.
All united, but does it? But we need to clearly state it does not extinguish our sovereignty.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. No way. And it doesn't extinguish anyone's sovereignty from any native country. We all stand sovereign together.
With the treaty, and you all go in together, it empowers the whole of the Aboriginal race, regardless of what part of Australia you're from. You all walk under the same banner.
Precisely. So what we're saying here too, listeners, is that as Indigenous Australian, Aboriginal Australians, if we're Māori people of New Zealand, or even Polynesian nations, whatever they are, these are all the Indigenous people that are gathered here today, that treaty does not extinguish our sovereignty, because sovereignty is a very powerful issue, a very important one at this point in time, where there's an attempt by governments to extinguish all native Indigenous peoples, even of the Pacific regions and right here into Australia, our sovereignty. This is a mass move. The Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement is a treaty attempting to give the powers of these nations, the sovereign powers, into the hands of the few and into the multinational corporations, and into the Crown, who was multinational at the time, back in the 1800s, when of course this was sealed. We're dealing with a similar situation today. We're dealing with the Crown, which is multinational and its representatives. We're dealing with the multinational corporations and their interests. Behind both of them is the interest of the Crown, which is now welded with and united with corporations in order to take over the greater wealth of the nations and all the Pacific regions and the lands as well. So a natural resource of multiple levels and layers. So this is, would you like to just round off with some final comments on this, Mario?
Yes, I'd like to say for those who want to, jump online, we've got the internet there, go online, search, keep searching, swap it around, check out stories, all that sort of stuff. There's a mob up in Parramatta called Te Kotahiranga, Te Kotahitanga, or Rangiho from Parramatta, and they very much stand beside Māori and Aboriginal, because our history goes back into the early 1800s, back to the time where our Māori were coming across the Tasman Sea, trading our kauri, our timber, and all that. So we had Māori coming right back into the early 1800s, back into I think 1804, and having partnership with Aboriginal and the people, the traders that were here at that time in Parramatta. So if you would like to, for the Māori that are over here in Australia, they want to search out a bit more, and finding it hard to get home, don't want to go home, have problems, whatever. If you want to sort out your stuff, you want to know about Māori, you want to become sovereign, there's, Te Kotahitanga or Rangiho, Parramatta, tribes and councils. Suss them out and have a look, have a good go. Like, they've got a lot of information there, and they're for the Aboriginal, they're for the Māori, and they're for the people that are living in Australia. So don't be disheartened or anything, whatever race you are, if you're Indigenous from any other country, we're all Indigenous from some sort of country, from somewhere. It's all there. We have our rights, it's our sovereign right, it was given to us, by the Supreme Divine One above us, and no one can take that away from us. Thank you.
Precisely. And, really, it is any treaty signed does not give up your sovereignty. It has not surrendered your sovereignty. That's a very strong message coming out of here today, both Maori people and Aboriginal Indigenous Australians. And Terence, a final comment from you just regarding this issue of sovereignty and treaty. Not give up your sovereignty. Treaty did not surrender sovereignty, and so there's a strong claim still over the natural resources of New Zealand.
Yeah,
That's correct.
The treaty was put in place to protect our rights. Ideally, I would like to see the Aboriginal people of Australia have their own treaty. Not only the Aboriginals of Australia here, the Inuit people of Alaska, the First Nation people of Canada, the American Indians. They're the ones going to be the most affected by this TPPA. If we can all get a treaty and work together as one, I liken it to a piece of paper. You can tear singly a piece of paper, but if you can get them all binded together like how with a phone book, now try and tear us apart. It's hard. So if we, all Indigenous people throughout the world, can stand together, that's how strong we become. One voice,
One people.
one people.
People united will never be defeated. This is the universal message, the universal voice of all Indigenous people, including all people that really have been fighting to keep our natural lands and resources in the hands of the public at large, and not in the hands of the dictatorial crown or the dictatorial.
That is international law that has been broken in this nation. So we see the Maori people and the people of the Pacific region as being leaders with us, as being those in harmony with us and those in agreement with us. Because when people agree, we are indefeatable. When people agree, well, then we move together, we are empowered together. And that's what it is all about. It's about Indigenous people who are First Nation people. And we see that whether it be the British Crown or whether it be the multinational corporations today that are attempting to rob us of our lands and our natural resources. This is what's occurring. As we've seen the government selling out our and privatising our gas, our electricity, our water, our land, the public railway system, we're seeing that they're betraying the public.
We can look to the treaty and say, well, did the Maori people give away their sovereignty with the treaty, or do they retain their sovereignty?
No, the sovereignty was taken. We didn't give it away. It was taken off us, like everything else.
And although the aim is, or the statement is that the Maori people have never ceded and never given away their sovereignty. The sovereignty was not included in the drawing up and the signing of the Waitangi treaty or agreement. Was that the case?
No, I don't think it was the case. I think it was just taken off of, just greed. They only wanted one boss, and that was the Queen. They didn't want any Māori bosses, is what we call rangatira, which is chief, a Māori chief, which ran little iwis, which is like in English, a community. Take, like I said. They don't give anything back.
Precisely. So people have a right to self-defence, do they not? They have a right to claim that which is theirs. They have a right to make a stance for it. But who are the militants here? Are they the militant government that we elect who are supposed to serve the people? Is it the militant and aggressive multinational corporations? Are they the militants? We're in a war zone, are we not?
Very much like a war zone in my eyes, And we're losing. We're losing this war. White man's too strong.
Why do you say the white man is too strong?
Because they got everything that we haven't. They got our stuff that belongs to us. They got stuff that belongs to us that they won't give back. They said they got, they rocked up to our land. They say, oh, well, I'll have that. The one who fucking owns it already.
Yeah. So the treaty didn't give them those rights or surrender those rights?
No, they've only just recently come in within the last few years, these laws, and stopped our people from going to the beach and feeding their families, feeding their whānau, because they got nothing in their pocket. We go to the beach, we look on the land, and that's how we survived in the old days. We can't survive with the white man and their laws these days.
And I think as we as Aboriginal people, First Nation peoples too, reflecting upon whether we treaty with this government or whether we keep our independence, that we're not treaty. Would you recommend that Aboriginal people treaty with the Australian government, or that we not treaty given what's happened in New Zealand?
Yeah, I reckon Aboriginal people are big enough to make their own mind up. But yeah, I reckon with all the rip-offs the white people have done to us in the past, I think give them a miss, man.
You're now rocking with the best 4 pound on my hip, gold chain on my chest.
But what I see today, listeners and viewers, is I see a mass fight back. I see a mass application in the future of all peoples. Those of the Pacific region, Maori people, Indigenous people, First Nation peoples around really the globe are fighting back for their natural rights, law and natural justice. This is a report from Razor Sharp.
Look at the front line of our struggle. The black youth hurry up to and join the huddle. We're proving truth to societies and trying to rubble. Minds free to start a double. Large beat to seek defeat the best man humble. Keep your spirit to land, although your sneaks on the street. I still